Hi there, my name is Desiree Pointer Mace. I'm a professor of education at Alverno and the director of graduate programs in education here. This video will welcome you and let you know a little bit about what you can expect of your graduate program. And though it certainly can't substitute for face-to-face connection, this will allow you to engage in orientation from wherever you want, whenever you want, and then we will look forward to creating an authentic relationship with you once you are here on campus and we're here together. If we were here together, I would be asking you who you are, what context you're in, why you've chosen to pursue a master's or advanced license, why now, and why Alverno. But based on what people have said in the past, in general, we're a very diverse group. We come from all kinds of different disciplines, K-12, agencies, nonprofits. People seek a master's degree for different reasons. So you might be seeking a master's or advanced license because you've reached a time in your professional career when you're feeling like this is a time for me to move to the next step. It might be that your children are getting older and now this is some you time. It might be that you are have some kind of pressing need. You're being asked to move into a new role and you need more knowledge, expertise in order to do that well. Why now? Could have to do with any one of the number of things that I've already mentioned. Why Alverno? It may be that you are an alum of Alverno at the undergraduate level. It may be that you know an alumna or alumnus of Alverno who made the case that this is a place that really supports learners. It may be that we are convenient to you. You might live here in Milwaukee, or you can come to Milwaukee for some of your face-to-face classes at times that are convenient for you. But there are a lot of different reasons why people come here, but mainly Alverno is a place that was named in honor of its sponsoring order, the School Sisters of St. Francis, and St. Francis himself actually was given a mountain in Italy as a retreat center for him and his brothers at which they could kind of retire from the world, reflect, deepen their understanding of their commitments to their work, and return rejuvenated and ready to make the changes that they saw necessary in their time and day. And that mountain was called Mount Alverno. And so Alverno really tries to honor that in our work across the institution, but very particularly for our case today, in our programs in education. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what advanced professional study is and what it should really do for you. We basically want you getting smarter. We want you getting smarter than you are right this very moment. We want you to extend and deepen your knowledge base in your professional context from wherever you are now. So by the time you are finished with your advanced program, you should know more than you know today. We should also involve you in asking questions about your practice. We want people who are prepared to identify things that need change and take action based on those changes. We want you to be able to collaborate with those around you. Those might be people who are your students, they might be your professional colleagues, they might be your employees, they might be members of the community. We want you developing and communicating what you know to these other audiences, and we want you stretching. Alverno is very known for our practices of self-assessment, and so when we say that we want you to be further on than where you are today, it's in part because you yourself are going to get yourself there. So what really is an ability-based program? Basically, at Alverno, when we say ability-based education, we mean really that you're able to do stuff with the things that you learn. And so we want all of our courses, all of our assessments, all of our learning experiences to be oriented around a broad set of things that we believe is the ideal graduate. So if you're here because you are pursuing a principal license, we're going to be thinking about what does a really successful principal know, believe, and is able to do. And then, or a reading teacher, reading specialist, initially licensed teacher, community leader. And then what we do is with that clear vision of what that person is able to do, then we create criteria that are linked to those abilities and those outcomes so that we can assess how well you're progressing towards that. And then all along the way, we provide you multiple opportunities to reflect on how you are doing in moving towards your development of those abilities. So there are 5 abilities that we think about in terms of developing educators. An educator, of course, comes from the Latin root educare, which means to lead forth. So we're not talking about jamming stuff into people. We're talking about leading you forth. Wherever you are now, we want you to be better, and we want you to be doing that for the learners that you serve. So there are 5 things that we're looking for when we think about really excellent educators and educational leaders. One that kind of immediately comes to mind is conceptualization. If you're going to teach math, you should be smart about math. You should really deeply understand math. But you should also understand theories of learning, right? How people develop and how that informs how they learn math. That's true for everything. So basically the know-how, the know-what, the content related to whatever we're going to be conveying as educators, we talk about that in terms of conceptualization ability. But we can be smart about stuff and not be very good educators. So let's think about some other things that people need to know and be able to do in order to really serve others well as learners. Diagnosis. Diagnosis really means that I'm going to be closely observing people and asking good questions so that I can make sure that I'm changing my learning and my teaching opportunities to match what I'm seeing. So if somebody teaches the same thing the same way for years and years and years, they're not really drawing on their diagnosis ability. Special educators, for example, are very good at diagnosis ability. It's part of the central practice of special education is to really closely observe what a child with a disability is able to do, and then to think about how we can close some achievement gaps for that kid based on where they are right now and where we want them to get. So that idea of the dance between observing and questioning is really talking about diagnosis ability. Coordination. How do you set up an environment for learning? So that might be, how is your office set up as a school leader to welcome families, students, and colleagues into a space where you're going to have a particular kind of conversation? It might be a classroom. How are you going to set up your kindergarten literacy centers or your lab stations in a high school science setting? Or it might be virtual environments for learning. How are you going to organize resources, asynchronous or synchronous learning opportunities in a virtual space? How are you going to make sure that people have the resources they need, the time, the space, and the access to be able to do really wonderful things with those resources? So that would be our coordination ability. Then we have communication, right? So we need to be clear when we're speaking. We need to be attentive when we're listening. We need to be mindful of how different cultures, communities, people, professions communicate and how we can leverage the strengths of that knowledge to be able to serve our learners and our colleagues well. That also includes the use of technology. So for example, in part, one of the reasons why we've made this change to be able to have an orientation online is because we know that these communication tools that I'm using right now, even this screen recorder, putting my PowerPoint next to this video so that you can see me, that's part of using my communication ability to try and serve your learning needs. But we can all really imagine somebody who's smart about their content, asks good questions, sets up a learning environment effectively, and communicates clearly, but also maybe isn't a really great teacher for you. And that's because they're missing something that's really important. And that we would call integrative interaction. We talk about this in terms of the pedagogy of the heart. The people who make a difference in our lives, the people who convey belief in us and enthusiasm for their discipline and make learning seem like a joy and an opportunity, right? That kind of idea, and how am I going to stand as an advocate and an ally for the people that I serve as teachers? I'm not going to be complaining about people in the teacher's lounge. I'm going to be collaborating with people actively, because that's how this profession can really be a world-changing profession. And so when we think about how these things connect to each other, there's really a map. So we can see that we're building our conceptualization ability by getting you smarter than you are right now. We're building your diagnosis and coordination ability by asking and requiring that you conduct inquiry into your practice. We're getting at your coordination and integrative interaction ability when we require you to collaborate with your peers and your learners and your colleagues. We have you build your communication and conceptualization ability when you're building professional presentations. And stretching you is really all of these abilities together. So then when we think about what the learning process here is that aims at that, we're going to make sure that all of your courses give you clear goals or outcomes, so it should not be a mystery what you should come out with this being able to do as a result of your experience in a given class. Then your assignments and your learning experiences should have good criteria that are aligned with and provide evidence of your attainment of those outcomes. There probably will be multiple samples of performance gathered over the course of the semester or the year, or the cohort model that might be more compressed than that. Our job then is to provide expert judgment so that we are a companion with you on your learning journey, giving you feedback, giving you opportunities to self-assess and reflect on your practice. This is all embedded in Alverno's assessment as learning model. And the assessment as learning model really means that one of my mentors and colleagues here, Georgine Locher, taught at Alverno for a very long time. She taught me that the Latin root of the word assess is assidere, which means in Latin to sit down beside. So our relationship with you here at Alverno is as somebody who's thought about this stuff before, but is actually sitting down next to you to think with you about your performance. And so when you're here at Alverno, we want to be able to give you those clear goals, those criteria, those samples of performance, that expert judgment, that feedback, that experience to self-assess, and then that will all be housed together in what we call an academic evaluation. So on this, you'll see a link to iol.alverno.edu. When you go there, what I want you to do is click on your academic evaluation once you log in there. When you log in on your academic evaluation, that will generate a view of your program and the courses that are remaining for you. That's an incredibly valuable resource for you. Because as you're planning with your advisor and thinking about what your pace is through your program and when you're going to finish your program, that academic evaluation is where all of our conversations start. So part of this orientation is that I want you to make sure that you know how to access, read, and interpret your academic evaluation. Then we have some policies and expectations. So one of them is academic honesty. That's a non-negotiable. Your work must be your own. You need to cite your sources appropriately. And so one of the things that we'll have you do is sign electronically this academic honesty policy that's linked to our professionalism rubric about what our expectations are for you as a professional pursuing advanced licensure or a master's degree or both here at Alverno. Just generally very good for anybody who is entering graduate school, and it's a piece that was written by our colleague Dr. Sandra Graham called Entering the Dialogue, which is really about academic reading in the graduate school level. These are where you can access me and the Dean of the School of Professional Studies. We also have a graduate newsletter that's published bi-weekly that often has interesting events on campus, giving praise to alumni of our program who are doing exciting things in the field. Sometimes there's job positions that are announced and so on. So please do open and read that on an every other week basis while you're in your graduate program. But apart from that, we're just really happy that you're here. We work for you, and we're really, really honored that you've chosen Alverno as your graduate program, and we really look forward to accompanying you on this journey into the future and toward the degree or license that you're pursuing. Thank you very much.